work hard, save money, retire at 65. Or, hear me out, sell Beanie Babies like they're gold bars and retire before lunch. These are real people, real schemes, and real paydays that should not have worked, but did. The London stock hoax of 1814. February 21, 1814. A man in a British uniform rode into London on horseback with urgent news. Napoleon was dead. France had surrendered. The war was over. Cheers broke out, church bells rang, and stocks exploded. It was a great day for England, except none of it was true. The messenger wasn't official. He was part of a scam. A French criminal named Charles de Berenger teamed up with a shady stock speculator, Thomas Cochrane, yes, a real British lord, to stage a fake peace announcement. They planted rumors in Dover, hired a guy to wear a royal messenger uniform, and timed it just right. As soon as the news hit the capital, stock prices surged. The British government's 5% consols, basically their version of government bonds, spiked in value. While everyone else was celebrating, the conspirators dumped their shares for huge profits. It worked. Briefly. Then, real government officials showed up. Napoleon was very much alive, and France had not surrendered. The market crashed. Investors panicked. Authorities scrambled to figure out what just happened. By the next day, the entire thing unraveled. The London Stock Exchange realized they'd been played. Cochrane was arrested. De Berenger was caught, still dressed in bits of his fake uniform. 6 men were charged with fraud. Cochrane screamed conspiracy and even escaped prison for a short time. The British public loved the drama. Parliament did not. Cochrane was stripped of his knighthood, kicked out of the House of Commons, and thrown in jail. But here's the kicker, he still had fans. Later, he got a full royal pardon and went back to sea like nothing happened. The total gain from the scam? Around £1.1 million in today's money. Not bad for a fake war and a costume party. It was one of the first known examples of stock market manipulation. It also proved something more timeless. If you say something loud enough, fast enough, and with a straight face, people will believe it, especially if it makes them money. No crypto, no apps, just lies, wigs, and a horse. The man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice. In 1925, Paris was broke. The Eiffel Tower needed repairs, and newspapers were full of stories about rising maintenance costs. Enter Victor Lustig, a man who made lying an art form and fraud a career. He read those headlines and saw an opportunity most people wouldn't even hallucinate. Lustig forged government documents and claimed to be a high-ranking French official. His pitch? The Eiffel Tower was being quietly sold for scrap. Too expensive to maintain, too embarrassing to admit publicly. He even printed fake government stationery and booked a luxury suite at the Hôtel de Crillon to make it look official. He invited 5 of Paris's top metal dealers and gave a private tour of the tower. Not a single one asked questions. One guy, André Poisson, took the bait. He handed over a bribe just to secure the deal on top of the actual payment. Lustig took the money, skipped town, and disappeared to Vienna before anyone figured it out. And then, like any man addicted to chaos, he came back a few weeks later and did it again. This time, the metal dealers got suspicious and called the police. Lustig escaped before they could catch him. The French press didn't even cover the first scam because it was too embarrassing. The second one? Quietly buried. No one wanted to admit they'd almost scrapped their national monument because of one guy in a pinstripe suit. Victor Lustig went on to scam people across Europe and the US. He even conned Al Capone once and survived. But his Eiffel Tower hustle remains the boldest, selling a national icon, not once, but twice, without a shred of violence. Just charm, forged documents, and a lot of nerve. He didn't just lie, he made you thank him for it. In the history of get-rich-quick schemes, this wasn't just clever, it was performance art with a payout. And somehow, Paris just pretended it never happened. The original Ponzi scheme. In 1920, Charles Ponzi told the people of Boston he could double their money in 90 days. Then he made it sound even better, just 45 days. He claimed it wasn't risky, illegal, or magic, just smart investing. It involves something called international reply coupons, a type of postage voucher used to prepay international return mail. No one really understood how they worked, but Ponzi said he had cracked the system. He hadn't. He explained it in a way that sounded brilliant, but didn't actually answer anything. Investors nodded along anyway. Confidence was the product, not logic. The plan was simple. Buy coupons in countries where they were cheap, cash them in where they were worth more, and pocket the difference. Technically legal, practically impossible. He'd need to move millions of these coupons to justify the returns he was promising. He never did. He didn't even try. In fact, when regulators later checked, they found only a tiny fraction of the coupons he claimed to have traded. Most of his business was smoke, mirrors, and ledger padding. Instead, He paid old investors with money from new ones. The same basic trick that would be used again and again for the next 100 years, by people with more tech, better suits, and longer sentences. But Ponzi did it first, and loudest. At its peak, he was raking in $250,000 a day. In today's money, that's over $3.5 million daily. He bought a mansion, a bank, and even tried to buy the newspaper that wrote about him. His neighbors called him a genius. Taxi drivers handed him cash. Some families emptied their savings just to say they were in. Bank tellers worked overtime. Police officers invested. Even seasoned businessmen backed him, convinced they were watching a financial revolution unfold. The Boston Post got suspicious. A reporter started asking basic questions, like, where are the coupons? Why won't he show the ledgers? The answers didn't exist. Once people saw the math, it was over. He was arrested in August 1920. He had promised $15 million in returns and had maybe $600 left in his account. Ponzi went to prison, got out, went back in, and was eventually deported. He died broke in Brazil, working as a translator in a charity hospital. But the scam? It lives on. Every pyramid scheme, every too-good-to-be-true pitch, every MLM disaster, somewhere, they all trace back to Charles Ponzi. He didn't just run a con. He got his name in the dictionary. And for a few months, he was the richest broke man in America. The Pet Rock Revolution. In 1975, Gary Dahl, a California ad man, pulled off one of the most ridiculous money grabs in consumer history. He sold Americans actual rocks and made himself a millionaire. Real rocks. Gray, round, lifeless, just rocks. It started as a bar joke. Dahl and his friends were complaining about how much trouble real pets were. He joked that a rock would make the perfect pet. No mess, no vet bills, no barking, just peace and silence. Unlike most bar jokes, he followed through. He bought smooth Mexican beach stones for a few cents each. He placed them in cardboard boxes with air holes and straw. Then came the key ingredient, a 32-page instruction manual on how to train your pet rock. It included tips like teaching it to sit, stay, and roll over. The humor was the whole point. And it worked. People bought them in bulk. Teachers handed them out in classrooms. Kids took them to school like pets with personalities. The manual was full of absurd advice, including warnings not to overfeed your rock or leave it in the sun too long. Dahl even set up a customer service line for a rock. Most calls were prank calls or confused grandparents, but it added to the myth. What made it brilliant wasn't the product, it was the complete commitment to the bit. He never cracked a smile. The straighter he played it, the more people bought in. Within 6 months, Dahl had sold over 1.5 million pet rocks at $3.95 a pop. That's nearly $6 million gross in today's money, with next to no overhead. Dahl wasn't selling a product, he was selling a joke, and America bought it. Retailers couldn't keep up. The rocks were featured on news segments, talk shows, and late-night comedy. Dahl was invited everywhere and answered every question the same way. Yep, they're real rocks. Nope, he wasn't kidding. People knew they were being had, and they still lined up for more. By early 1976, the trend died as fast as it started. Dahl didn't care. He'd already walked away with a small fortune and later opened a bar called Carry Nations. He refused to bring the pet rock back, even when asked. He never tried to stretch the idea into a brand or franchise. He knew the joke had a shelf life. Gary Dahl didn't scam anyone. He didn't promise returns, fake documents, or sell lies. He sold a rock and a laugh, and for a short window in the mid-70s, that was enough to retire on. America wanted something stupid to believe in. Dahl handed them a rock and said, "Here, it doesn't bite." The Beanie Baby Gold Rush. In the late 1990s, stuffed animals became Wall Street. Beanie Babies weren't just toys, they were investment portfolios sewn together with polyester and hope. A 5-plush giraffe? That could be your kid's college fund if you got in early. Ty Inc., founded by Ty Warner, launched Beanie Babies in 1993. The formula was cheap, small size, soft fabric, and pellets inside to make them floppy. But Warner added something else: scarcity. He limited how many retailers could stock them, discontinued popular ones suddenly, and turned a children's toy into a collectible commodity. Stores were restricted to small shipments. Collectors camped outside. Parents traded intel on which mall kiosk might get a box next. It wasn't just a fad, it was a full-blown plastic-tagged treasure hunt, and it worked. By 1996, these toys were everywhere. Kids wanted them. Adults hoarded them. Prices skyrocketed online. A blue elephant named Peanut resold for $5,000. Princess the Bear, a tribute to Princess Diana, had people calling it an heirloom. News outlets ran Beanie Baby market reports like it was NASDAQ. Entire magazines were published just to track their value. In 1997 alone, Ty Inc. made over $250 million. By 1998, That number doubled. People bought protective cases for them. Some refused to remove tags. Others sealed them in climate-controlled rooms. And then came the divorced couple, the famous photo of two adults sitting in court, dividing their Beanie Babies one by one like they were stock options with fur. Then it crashed. By 1999, the resale value disappeared. New collectors weren't joining. The market collapsed. And overnight, stuffed animals went from speculative gold to flea market junk. People had shelves full of rare toys that were now worth less than a cup of gas station coffee. Ty Warner didn't suffer. He became a billionaire. Years later, he was convicted of tax evasion, having hidden $100 million in offshore accounts. He avoided prison by writing a massive check. His fans didn't get that option. No one was tricked. No one lied. People just chose to believe that a bear with a heart-shaped tag could pay off their mortgage. It couldn't. The Beanie Baby boom wasn't a scam. It was a perfectly legal mass delusion, wrapped in plush and stuffed with dreams. The $Million-Dollar Homepage. In 2005, 21-year-old Alex II needed tuition money. Instead of getting a job or applying for student loans, he had a better idea. Sell the internet, one pixel at a time. So he built a blank web page, divided it into a million tiny squares, and called it the $Million-Dollar Homepage. Each pixel cost $1, but you couldn't buy just one. The minimum was a 10 by 10 block. Buyers could upload an image, link it to their website, and get a permanent spot on what was essentially a digital billboard made of chaos. It sounded dumb. It was dumb. But it worked. Two made a few $100s the first day, then 1,000. Then the press caught on. Suddenly, tech blogs were calling him a genius. Businesses, bloggers, weird online stores, and even adult sites bought space. The randomness made it go viral. Everyone wanted in before the million ran out. By the time he had 999,000 pixels sold, demand was so high that he auctioned off the last 1,000 on eBay. A casino website paid $38,100 for that tiny square. His final take? $1,037,100. Two paid his university tuition in full. He moved on to launch other projects, none of which caught the same lightning. Years later, he created a meditation app. But nothing ever topped the website that looked like it was built in 1998 and gave people nothing but bragging rights. Today, the $Million-Dollar Homepage still exists. Most links are dead. Some point to businesses that folded in 2007. Others go to parked domains or malware traps. It's like a frozen museum of early internet desperation, preserved forever in tiny pixels. It wasn't a scam. No one promised profit. No one even tried to explain why it was a good idea. It just made money. Fast. Two didn't build something useful. He built something people talked about. He didn't pitch features or ROI. He pitched novelty. And for a short, ridiculous moment in internet history, that was worth over $1 million. All he sold was space. And for once, the hype paid for itself. Paperclip that became a house. In 2005, Kyle McDonald, a 25-year-old from Canada, posted a photo of a red paperclip online and said he wanted to trade it. His goal? Keep trading up until he got a house. It sounded like a joke. It wasn't. His first trade was simple. One red paperclip for a fish-shaped pen. Then he traded the pen for a doorknob. The doorknob for a camping stove. Each time, the item got slightly better. But the real upgrade wasn't the stuff. It was the attention. Blogs picked it up, then news outlets. Suddenly, people were trading with Kyle just to be part of the story. He wasn't offering value. He was offering novelty. A year in, he traded a snowmobile for a trip to Yacht, British Columbia, just so he could say the words, "a trip to Yacht." Eventually, he got a movie role in a low-budget film. Then he traded that for a year's free rent in Phoenix. And then came the final leap. The town of Kipling, Saskatchewan, offered him a house in exchange for the movie role. They got publicity. He got a house. Everyone clapped. It took 14 trades over the course of a year. No money changed hands, just internet buzz, weird objects, and timing. He moved into the house, hosted a paperclip festival, and wrote a book. Then he moved out. McDonald didn't invent bartering. He just understood that in the age of the internet, a dumb goal could go viral. He wasn't selling products, he was selling progress. No scams, no fake promises, just a red paperclip, a little patience, and a lot of headlines. It worked because people like stories that sound fake, and this one absolutely did. But it wasn't. The Bitcoin pizza that cost a fortune. On May 22, 2010, a Florida man named Laszlo Hanyecz made history. He bought 2 Papa John's pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. At the time, those coins were worth about $41. The pizzas had pepperoni, sausage, and one of the most expensive price tags in human history. This was the first recorded purchase made with Bitcoin. Before that, the currency was just code, mined by hobbyists, hoarded by nerds, and ignored by everyone else. Hanyech wanted to prove it could be used in real life, so he posted on a Bitcoin forum offering 10,000 coins, anyone who could get him 2 pizzas. Someone took the deal. The guy ordered from Papa John's and delivered it to Hanyech's house. 2 pizzas arrived. Everyone cheered. The blockchain had officially entered the real world through garlic crust and melted cheese. At today's prices, those coins would be worth hundreds of millions, maybe more. People call it the most expensive meal ever purchased. Hanyech doesn't care. He says he was happy to be part of something new. He kept mining, kept eating pizza, and eventually stopped counting. People love to dunk on the Bitcoin pizza story, but here's the thing. In 2010, Bitcoin wasn't worth much more than a stack of coupons. It had no market, no use, and no real backing. Turning it into actual food? That was revolutionary. Ridiculous, but revolutionary. Hanyech never got rich. He never tried to cash in. He never even kept most of his coins. He just wanted pizza and a point to prove. And he made it. Every crypto billionaire today owes a slice of their fortune to that pepperoni purchase. Laszlo Hanyech didn't strike it rich, but his pizza day is now a holiday in the Bitcoin world. No joke. People celebrate May 22 as Bitcoin Pizza Day every year. 10,000 coins, 2 pizzas, one guy who just wanted lunch. GameStop versus Wall Street. In January 2021, GameStop, a struggling video game store chain with outdated malls and half-empty shelves, became the hottest stock on earth. Why? Because Reddit decided it should be. Hedge funds had been shorting GameStop stock hard. That means they were betting it would drop. Reddit users on a forum called Wall Street Bets noticed, and they weren't having it. They hated Wall Street, loved chaos, and thought it'd be funny if GameStop exploded instead of collapsed. So, they started buying. A lot. The price of GME stock shot up from under $20 to nearly $500 in a matter of days. Hedge funds panicked. One firm, Melvin Capital, lost billions trying to cover its short. Other institutions scrambled. It was a full-blown short squeeze, fueled by memes, fury, and phone apps. Millions of everyday people jumped in. Some made thousands, some made nothing, others lost their shirts. But for a brief, wild moment, Reddit users were dictating the stock market using GameStop, AMC, and the occasional dog meme. Then came the backlash. Trading platforms like Robinhood froze purchases on GME and other meme stocks. Users called foul. Lawsuits were filed. Congressional hearings followed. Everyone had a hot take, from billionaires to bartenders. GameStop's value plummeted again, but the impact stuck. The entire episode exposed how fragile the system really was. Regular people had weaponized the same tools hedge funds used for years, and Wall Street didn't like it. The GameStop saga wasn't a con, it wasn't a crime. It was a decentralized internet tantrum with a stock ticker. Some used it to get rich, others used it to send a message. Either way, a dying game store became a symbol, and Wall Street had to sit there and take it. The NFT rock that sold for $1.3 million. In 2021, someone spent $1.3 million on a rock, not a real one, a JPEG of a cartoon rock. It was part of a project called EtherRock, which featured 100 digital images of the exact same rock in different colors. That's it. No interactivity, no rights, no secret perks. Just ownership of the file on the blockchain. The project started back in 2017 as a joke, priced around $300. No one cared. Then NFTs exploded. Digital art suddenly meant money. People were paying tens of thousands, even millions, to own links to images. EtherRock, once forgotten, became the dumbest status symbol money could buy. In August 2021, one sold for $1.3 million. The buyer bragged online. They didn't get copyright. They didn't get physical art. They just got to say they owned Rock 55. Twitter lost its mind. Critics called it money laundering. Fans called it innovation. Everyone else called it stupid. The creator of EtherRock? Anonymous. The art? Copy-pasted clip art from a stock photo site. The code? Barely maintained. But because it was early, rare, and weird, it became valuable. Not for what it was, but for what people believed it meant. Within months, celebrities were buying cartoon apes, pixel punks, and yes, more rocks. Most NFT projects collapsed later. EtherRock didn't. It just sat there, silent, still, and ridiculous. To this day, those 100 rocks remain untouched. You can't touch them, you can't use them, but you can point at them and say, that one cost more than your house. The $1.3 million rock wasn't about art, it was about flex. Proof that you had money to burn, taste so obscure no one could argue, and the right wallet address to prove it. It wasn't a scam. The seller didn't lie. The buyer wasn't tricked. It was just capitalism trying to out-weird itself and succeeding. A rock, a receipt, and a price tag that made headlines. That's all it took.